The Pesky Report is sponsored by High and Happy Catering out of Springfield, Massachusetts. Their chef, Michael Best, can cook anything you want with or without being infused with cannabis. Check out some of what they make on their Instagram at High and Happy Catering or call them at 413-785-8999. You'll be happy you did.
Welcome to the Pesky Report, a podcast for Red Sox fans.
All right, welcome back, everyone. It's our 150th episode on the Pesky Report. What a day, what a number. I'm Ed Hand, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, sidekick, co-pilot, the goose to my maverick, Tim. How are you doing today, Tim?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited because we are joined by somebody that I've been following on the Twitter for quite some time now. He's actually, technically we don't get paid for it, but we are co-workers at SoxProspects.com. I'm with Brendan Campbell today. He's a writer on Sox Prospects, on OverTheMonster, on blogging the Red Sox. So he's pretty knee-deep in the baseball. How are you doing today, Brendan?
I'm good, Ed. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, super excited to have you here. So we're just gonna be talking about the minor league system. Tim's got some questions for us. We have a couple of questions from our audience on Twitter that people left. But before we get started, you guys, you're really only going to appreciate this if you're watching the video of this. But I never know what to wear when we're recording. I'm like looking at you guys right now, and it's like t-shirt, and Tim's got this like big old pink sweatshirt on, and I have like a polo shirt and a Paw Sox hat on. I never know, like, are we supposed to be like all rah-rah'd up and like have like wearing our favorite jerseys, or like what's the etiquette for that?
I don't really have one. I just kind of whatever I wore for the day, I guess. Then I had to bring out the Fire Goodell hat.
Yeah, no, that's a responsible take. Now, Brendan, have you done any podcasts prior to this?
Yeah, I actually have my own, which is I haven't really recorded in a while, but I have been a frequent podcaster in the past. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't instead of waiting till the end, why don't you plug your podcast and some of your work right now for us, and just give people that aren't as familiar with your work an introduction into who you are.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Potting the Red Sox, part of my own blog's umbrella, I guess you want to call it that. Like I said, I haven't recorded in a few months, just no reason in particular, just haven't. So on the whole blog front, I started that about 5 years ago when I was a freshman in college, just out of boredom, really. But I would say that kind of just fueled the passion for baseball even more. We're to the point now, I take it pretty seriously, I guess you want to say that. And I'm on it every day, just about.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm very impressed with for you. I remember this was like a couple of weeks ago. You posted that it was the first day in like several hundred days. It felt like that you hadn't actually updated the blog. Was that how do you manage to keep that going so consistently? I find it can be very hard to just even sit down, and even if it's just a few paragraphs, it's like, oh God, I don't want to focus on this. I want like the 3-sentence gratification of Twitter.
Yeah, it's just I guess I view it as my own portfolio. And I guess I feel kind of an obligation to the audience I have. Not that I know them like on a personal level or anything, but if someone's checking my blog out every day, I want to try to keep that updated for them.
That is what we call in the business professionalism, and that's really awesome that you've been able to do that. What, if you don't mind my asking, where did you go to school and what were you studying there when you started the blog?
So I started at Endicott College up in North Shore in Beverly. Transferred after my freshman year, but towards the end there, I was just pretty bored. I was studying business major. So it just started as like a fun thing to do during the spring before the semester ended. And like I said, just kind of snowballed into what it is today.
Yeah, no, that's how a lot of these things feel. Start, I feel like as long as you're enjoying it, if it's not a job for you, it's a lot easier. Now, are you from that part of the state?
I'm from the South Shore,
Where
suburbs
about?
of Boston.
Which I grew up in Acton, so it's like kind of near, like in between Boston and Nashua.
Yeah, I'm from Weymouth, Mass. The
Oh,
South
okay,
Shore.
gotcha.
I wish
I
I
bet
was
you-
from Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, you're a New Yorker, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
you're,
proud, but I am a New Yorker.
we're little envious there, I guess. But I'm technically from New York. I was actually born out in the Hudson Valley, and pretty excited. I'm seeing my first Greenville Drive game out in the Hudson Valley on Thursday, so get to see Nico Cavadas and Big Joe and all those guys. I'm pretty really
That
looking
should be
forward
fun.
to it. But so I'm gonna let Tim take over here with the questions.
Well, Brendan, you kind of already got into it, but what do you do with Sox prospects, and like, what do you enjoy the most about it?
So I started Sox Prospects back in January. So it took a little while, but like once the minor league season started rolling, like my primary responsibilities are writing about 2 recaps a week for the games the night before, and then about once a month writing a notes column, just summarizing all the big moves that have been made in the last week or so, the headlines, storylines within the system, promotions, things of that nature.
Okay. And then going into that, with the prospects you look at, what are like some of your favorite guys? Just for like various reasons, just because of what their name is. Like Blaze Jordan, he's got a cool name, so like I like him because of his name. But like, what goes into like your favorite prospects?
I would say there's a lot of things, honestly. Like obviously the big hype guys are gonna get a lot of attention. But I also like the unheralded guys too. Like Brian Van Bell, undrafted. He's fun to watch. Devlin Granberg is like 26, still grinding away. He's fun to watch. And then I guess just like some the obsolete international signings, I guess if you want to call them that. Cedon Rafaela started out as like a 10K bonus guy. Now he's one of the top prospects in the system. Same can be said for Brian Bayo. So it's interesting watching their journeys, especially from like the academy.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's actually, speaking of Bayo, he's going to be making the start today for the Red Sox in Tampa. And I was reading that there's an entire bus of people from the academy, from like the
Yeah, I
FCL
saw
Center
that.
and all that are going to be going to watch the game. So that tells you how much his teammates like the guy. But no, that's Did you see yesterday with the game Van Bell had there? Because that was one of the most impressive starts I think we've seen this season. It was 7 innings. I think he threw 75 pitches, 5 strikeouts. I forget the hit total. He didn't walk anybody, and he's just
2 hits.
Yeah, like he's just been absolutely just shoving it. I know in the Sox prospects discussion about, over who's going to be our player of the week, because Hunter Dobbins down in Salem also had a pretty impressive week. But it's we actually had Brian was the first person we interviewed on Pesky Report. He's one of 4 minor leaguers we've talked to, so it's that much cooler when you kind of gotten to meet the guy and talk to him a little bit. He's been performing so well in Double A.
He's been shoving well since he got promoted.
Yeah, like what's your take on Van Bell right now?
For me, I would say my biggest takeaway is the fact that he barely walks anyone. Like his strikeout to walk ratio is really nice. It even was earlier this year when the rest of the numbers weren't all that pretty in Greenville. But he's just been someone, right from the jump, I remember he was like one of the only guys from the 2020 class that started last year in Greenville. So right away, I guess that was a test for him, going right from nothing, like instructs to high A. So he's just been an interesting guy to watch because, he played important college baseball at Miami. So he's not like one of those, he's not like a Kate Cavalli or someone like that, but he's just a fun guy to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
And
so
then-
what else you got for us, Tim?
I have another one. So, who do you guys think is having the best season prospect wise? You can like just say one name. You can go one from every level, whatever you want to do.
Ed, do you want to go first? Or
Yeah,
either?
I'm gonna go one from every level, and I get the feeling that there isn't like a right or wrong answer, and you certainly can repeat them if you have your own guys. That's awesome. So I'm gonna start AAA. I mean, if we're going just the last week, Junior Downs was really destroying the league before he got brought up, but just of overall guys there, I actually really like what Connor Wong's done. He's really been able to like show him. He's a major league ready number 2 catcher right now, and I wouldn't be totally surprised depending on who the Red Sox bring in next year. I'm pretty positive he's going to be on the 26 man, but I think that there is a chance. He showed that he could be a number 1 in like a 60-40 platoon or something like that. So I really like him. Double A, I mean, there have been so many promotions there recently, but it's hard not to say Cedon Rafaela right now. Oh my gosh, if he can ever figure out how to draw a walk, like the kid's gonna be ridiculous. That's a potential all-star there just from the defense. He's got great bat, good arm, can play a few positions. But, I mean, I was listening. This was something they were talking about on the SoxProspects pod last week, that I guess, like, his batting practice is different than everyone else's. Like, normally, you know, you do your batting practice, and people are just swinging for the fences. You know, you'll see Franchi Cordero, see if he can hit it 600 feet. With Cedon Rafaela, they will throw him pitches outside the zone, so he'll lay off of them because he's such a free swinger. And that's something that I don't know if
he can work on.
Yeah, you can. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a Nico Cavadas or someone like that. But, you know, like it's something that he could get better. And he's already at this point, like, I'm reasonably sure he's going to at least get a call up to be a utility guy because he's fast. He can hit a little bit and his defense is real good. So high A, Nico Cavadas just got brought up there. I've been calling him the Greek god of dongs. I really hope that starts to stick. I think he has like 19 home runs between Salem and Greenville. He's just been on an absolutely ludicrous tear. 11th round pick out of Notre Dame last year. Salem, you know, the easy pick there to say is Marcelo Meyer, but I'm sure we're going to be talking about him later. So I'm going to say the guy I've been enjoying the most recently has been Roberto Mexicano because it's just a fun name. He's a catcher that kind of came out of nowhere. He's putting up good numbers. We'll see if it sticks. But there's just, you know, they're like all the guys that people are really excited about, I think, are in Salem right now. Like Meyer, Blaze Jordan. I guess Edinson Polito might be a little bit of an under the radar guy. FCL, hard not to go Miguel Blaze there. And then the Dominican Summer League, I just love Armando Sierra. The guy, if you look him up, I mean, the Dominican Republic blue team is an absolute juggernaut. I think they're 22-4 or something like that right now. They were averaging over 7 or 8 runs a game. And this guy, this 18-year-old first baseman, has like 3 home runs and just a chaotic amount of run production. So those are my guys. How about you, Brendan? I hope I didn't steal too many of them off your list.
Oh, no, so I'll just copy you and go level from level. So starting in AAA, I would go with some of the guys who have been recently promoted, such as Pedro Castellanos or Chris Murphy. I know Castellanos got off to a tough start in Portland, but he's been raking as of late and since the promotion. Murphy's just like another intriguing left-hander they've been grooming.
Can I ask you something with Castellanos? Because actually, Hunter Knoll, when he was on a couple weeks ago, was raving about Castellanos. So I'm just wondering what it is, because he's not even on the SP60 right now. So I'm just wondering what it is about him that you like.
It's kind of a basic response, but I just like that he hits for average.
Yeah. No, that's legit. That's legit. Right-handed bat, has a little bit of power. He's hitting, but you're right. He's been hitting ever since May started.
So Chris Murphy, again, another guy, mid-season promotion. I know it seems like, I don't know how many starts he made with the Blue Sox. I think his last two, it's been one of those where he tosses like 5 or 6 scoreless innings, then comes out for the next one and runs into a little bit of trouble. But I mean, I'm sure that's something that will just work itself out. Going to Double-A, I would say, I mean, obviously Rafaela is an easy answer. But if I had to go outside the box, I guess I would say I'm actually looking at the roster right now, trying to get creative. But I would say David Hamilton's speed is something to be reckoned with. Like, obviously, he's not having the best of seasons after that monster opening day he had. But based off his speed alone, I mean, you could picture that a way he gets up to the big leagues sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I get real, like not exactly Terrence Gore, but maybe like Willie Bloomquist vibes from him, where utility guy who's just his wheels are just so useful.
Mm-hmm. In Greenville, I'll go with Nathan Hickey, another guy from the 2021 draft class, like Cavadas.
I love Hickey.
Yeah, he's a solid catcher, even though I don't think that's been his natural position his whole career. Like, I know he talked to Alex Spear about that recently, about how Florida wanted to stick him in the infield. But he's kind of developed into – he's a top catching prospect. I mean, I don't know how you want to look at it. Like, you could say Wong or Hernandez, but just in terms of potential, he's the top catching prospect in the system right now, I would have to think, at least in terms of rankings.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the highest ceiling of them. You could make a case for Indira Solera in the FCL, but he's so far away.
Yeah. Another guy I like from the 2021 draft class who just got promoted to Greenville is Phillip Sykes. Another speedy guy. I know he got to a slow start in Salem, but he was hitting pretty well, tearing the cover off the ball, I guess. And honestly, just the 2021 draft class in general seems kind of stacked because, I mean, you already got McDonough in Greenville. And then in Salem, I guess, like, I could talk about Hunter Dobbins, who's been impressive since coming back from Tommy John surgery in his pro debut. I like Paulino a lot. I think he could be like this year's version of 2021 today in Rafaela. So,
yeah, that's the vibe I get to for him.
Like next year, if he gets to Greenville, he could break out there. In the FCL, I'll just stick with the pitchers. Alma Rodriguez Cruz, I mean, another guy, 2021 draftee. Jackson Paez, Luis Perales, some intriguing young arms right there.
Yeah, you see what Perales did today?
Like, 3 hitless innings or something like that?
It was 3 perfect innings with 8 strikeouts.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 19-year-old righty, but I feel like he's always been hurt. Like, we haven't really seen him do a lot of stuff. But then, because I run the SoxProspects Twitter account, he started tagging us in all of these, like, videos of him warming, like, showing all of his pitches, and it was just like, oh, man, is he hyping himself? Yeah, he is, and he has every reason to. The kid's he's definitely going to be in Salem before the end of the year. He's got a nasty arm.
And in regards to the FCL team, I have to wonder if some guys are due for promotion, specifically after the draft, like BJ Vela. I know he's hit for a high average. I'm very intrigued by Daniel McIlvaney because they drafted him as a utility guy, but now he's listed as a catcher. And then down in the Dominican, I mean, obviously those guys, like we call them it's like glorified Legion ball.
Yeah, it is.
But I guess if I had to pick just a few guys, I'll just be basic. I like Marvin Alcantara. How about that?
Oh, that's a good one. He's really smoking the ball. He wasn't somebody that he wasn't one of these like big, like $1 million bonus babies or anything like that, but he's hitting.
And then, of course, the big signees from last year or earlier this year, Fraley Encarnacion, Framey De Leon. Those are guys you obviously keep an eye on in the box scores.
Yep. One of them's like, I've heard the scouting report, like what little we have of these guys in this league. Because again, these are like 16 and 17-year-olds, maybe 18. But what I've heard about De Leon is that he's kind of like a Jose Iglesias type with a very good glove, and the bat's a work in progress. But when you're hearing somebody talk about someone's defense that young, it usually means that the glove's going to play once they get brought up, which is always it means that they'll be able to move through the organization just off of that basis.
And then keeping it on like obviously the minor league track, but with the teams. What's your guys' like favorite minor league team to watch? Who do you think is the most exciting team in general?
That's a good one. You can go first on this one, Brendan.
I would just say the Portland Sea Dogs, because usually Double A is going to be the most intriguing level, just in terms of prospect potential. Probably the most top 100 guys will be playing in Double A, I'd imagine, because obviously in Triple A you have fringe major league guys. So Double A, Portland's my pick.
Yeah, I think as far as pure talent goes, that's the best spot to have because you're not going to see anybody going from like high A to the majors, but you occasionally will see somebody from Double A go to the majors. So
I mean, Alejandro Kirk went from A to the majors, which was kind of crazy.
Alejandro Kirk has like the body of a toaster. Nothing about him makes any sense. Like he's an anomaly who also happened to make the All. I've never seen a baseball player, by the way, with as a relatable build as Alejandro Kirk. I love that about him because even someone like Pedroia, who I think is taller than me, I mean, he was jacked. You know, like this is a strong dude.
I've never seen a dude with a build like that so fast. That dude has wheels.
He can book it, man. I mean, honestly, I think Williams Astudillo is faster than I think he looks also, but he's not an all-star, so there's your difference.
Yeah.
But, no, for me, I think it's AAA. And part of that is just because the Woosok Stadium is new, and I get to go there a few times a month, and it's just, oh, God, it's such a nice stadium. And the players there are exciting. We're seeing more. I think more so with Bloom, certainly than Dombrowski. It's become more of a necessary stop than it was before. Because I remember, like, when Devers got called up, he was in AAA for, like, maybe 2 weeks. It was not very long. I think Benintendi skipped it altogether. So we weren't seeing those big guys there too much. But now, Tristan Casas started the year there. Jeter Downs. Jeter Downs should have been there. But, like... we're seeing Gray and Bello stop there. I think Brian Mata, who's one of the top pitching prospects, we're probably going to see him stop at AAA before he gets called up to the majors, even though he's on the 40-man. It's become more necessary, and I like seeing these like young prospects matched up with these older veterans. Like, just for instance, I was at the game a couple days ago, and they brought in Jake Thompson making his AAA debut. And he has to go up against like Phillip Evans and Jose Peraza and Tim LaCastro and all these guys. Actually, surprising amount of former Red Sox from the 2020 season in there. But all of these guys that have played in the majors before and kind of seeing what they can do against them. And it's interesting. It really is an interesting mishmash of talent that I enjoy seeing. Now, that being said, I haven't been to any Salem games before, so I don't know how that's going to be. But Brendan, did you ever go to see the Lowell Spinners play back in the day when they were still a thing?
Oh, yeah, a ton.
Yeah, same. They because they were real close to my house, and a player's rehabbing or making their debut. I got to see Benintendi play there. I saw Jackie Bradley play. I think it was his second game after professionally. It's just a great spot to be able to do that. I really missed the short season league a lot. I didn't think I was going to miss it this much, but. I know you're in New York, but did you ever make it to that, Tim?
I never did. I know what you're talking about, but I never got like the only minor league Red Sox team I've ever seen play was Pawtucket when they were in Pawtucket.
Yeah, no, that's they actually had Paw Sox night the other day, and it was like they do these like opening songs before the game that it's kind of like if there was like a Weird Al parody artist, but they were just doing like songs about how great Paw Sox baseball or Blue Sox baseball is. And I had forgotten how much of an absolute bop that 2019 song was. That was some catchy ass music. The Blue Sox musicians, composers, whoever it is they have, really need to step up their game because Blue Sox 19, best AAA theme song I've heard for my money. But yeah, next, what do you got for us, Tim? What do you got next?
So like you guys personally have been doing minor league baseball a lot longer than me. Like this is my first year getting into it. So how long have you guys been like evaluating the prospects of minor league baseball?
So I can go first on that one because you went first on the last one. I actually started back in 2013. I wasn't really following the system per se, but I was conducting interviews with a bunch of players that had like very long minor league careers and played like maybe 2 weeks in the majors. So I did about like 13 of those maybe. And, some of them turned, like one of them, for instance, was in the news a bunch lately. Mark Budzinski, the first base coach for the Blue Jays, who just had a really horrible family tragedy. Hearts really go out to him. But he was one of those people, a couple guys from the Sox organization. And I kind of sat on that for a while. And then I think it was 2019, SoxProspects was hiring. And I had just left my job at Amazon, and I was working as a match reporter for the Paw Sox at the time, and I was kind of like, this will be something kind of cool to do during the off season. Like maybe I'll be able to get some more interviews in, because I just generally enjoy doing that. And they ended up picking me up, and I thought I was going to be doing what Brendan is doing as a writer, but they actually wanted somebody to run the Twitter account. So I started doing that, and then they gave me the Instagram and the Facebook too. So I have control over their entire public image, which is great. But that's kind of how and then, you're following it every day. It kind of becomes unavoidable how, like, getting into the teams and rooting for certain players and understanding how the system works a little bit better. So that's my story.
I would say what really got me into it was around 2015 or 2016, the Yohan Moncada signing kind of opened my eyes to, like, how big of a deal this kind of thing is. So obviously I follow Moncada and then Andrew Benintendi pretty closely. But then after there was no minor league ball at all in 2020, except what was going on at the Ultimate site, I would say that got me into it even more last year. That obviously helped me land this role with Sox Prospects, which I'm grateful for.
And then mine...
I was just going to say, I remember seeing, I think it was at the beginning of the year, like after all the lockout stuff, I remember seeing you tweet, like, I think I'm going to be covering minor league ball a little bit more now. Like, I'm kind of enjoying this. And, like, I think it was like a week later you were on Sox Prospects, which was kind of a quick trajectory change there. Like, good on you, man.
Well, thank you.
And then my next one was like, what goes into your guys' evaluation of these prospects? Like, obviously, a big part of it is the eye test, because you really get to watch them for the first time. But, like, what else goes into it?
I mean, some of it is just listening to people that are smarter than you. I read a lot of, like what Chris or Ian on Sox Prospects will tweet. Red Sox Stats is a good account. Listen to the podcast, but then also you can go through the numbers and kind of get a gauge for how they're doing. Like, if they're walking a lot and not striking out a ton, that tells me that they have good control of the plate, probably ready to move on to the next level. Like beyond, just beyond like the typical like slash line and all of that stuff. And I think, you read the scouting reports, it's like, and sometimes that matches with the eye test, like, like Brayan Bell, the ball just looks different coming out of his hand and moves like a certain way. You can kind of tell. So for me, I'd say it's kind of a mix of that stuff. How about you, Brendan?
Yeah, I can't like say I'm like Ian Kundal or anything like that, but I go off what those guys say. Where Alex Spear, for instance, he's really good at that kind of stuff. Fangraphs, Baseball America. So it's supposed to be going off what other people hear and then applying that to what you see yourself or what you read yourself in the stat lines. Because obviously not every game is going to be streamed.
And then we were talking about Tristan Cassis a little bit earlier, but I kind of want to go into a little bit more depth as he is still dealing with the injury. In my opinion, I think that the injury, because he's been out for so long, I really don't think there's going to be any chance we see him this year, and I just wanted your guys' opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely hindered his development. Because, I mean, around this, if he was healthy, you'd have to figure he would be factoring into the big league equation right now, given the difficulties Franchi and Bobby Dahlbeck have had at times at first base. And now we're talking about maybe the Red Sox trading for a rental first baseman like Josh Bell or something like that. So I think it's had an impact. And I don't think it's like going to be a lost year per se. Like, I think he's still going to perform when he's healthy again, but it just delays things a little bit.
Oh, I think he'll still be good. I just don't think there's going to be any chance that we'll see him this year.
I mean, so here's the thing with that. And I think that, I think that Brendan really hit the nail on the head there. I would go even further and say that him getting hurt really messed up their plans this year, because I think that Bobby, they were kind of going to see what they had with Bobby. That obviously wasn't flying. They brought up Franchi. I think he's exceeded expectations, but the defense really isn't there yet for him. I think, he just started playing the position last year, and it's not, it's like that scene in Moneyball with first base. Oh, it's not difficult at all. It's incredibly difficult. It's that, that's that whole thing there. So, and Beckes is a good fielder. Just watching him at AAA this year, there were so much, just because he's gigantic. He's like a 6'6", like Clydesdale that they taught how to swing a baseball bat. And that's a big target. And he's got good scoops, good hands. Came up at third baseman initially. And I really think that they were thinking he would be ready to plug in come June or July. And, he wasn't having the best season, but he also wasn't having a terrible season. And he was doing the stuff that he's done everywhere. He's hit the ball a ton. He's got a good eye, a good approach. You can stick him in the majors, and he's not going to win Rookie of the Year for you, but he's going to be better than what they have. And by the end of the year, you might see him being like a real force. So I think that was what the plan was. And then he got hurt, which you'd never expect out of a 22-year-old at first base, and that's what ended up happening. So as Brendan said, now, might have to sell a few parts to get a rental first baseman, which isn't the worst thing that's ever happened. But, if you have somebody from the system, you obviously would much rather use that than have to buy someone elsewhere.
And then my next question was, so this kind of contributes to the next question. When the rosters expand to 28 players, who do you guys think is going to be up? Because I know that's when I expected to see Cassis up, was when the rosters expanded.
Well, honestly, I would imagine if they can, I'm not too familiar with if the pitcher limit will still be in place by September, but I imagine if they can call up another pitcher from AAA, they will. And then the position player, probably someone who can play multiple positions. Might not even be in the organization yet. Can't say for certain, but just two guys to bolster their depth, really. I wouldn't, with Cassis hurt, I wouldn't expect some impact prospect like that.
I think Connor Wong's a pretty safe bet because third catcher is always good, and you can use him off. They need a right-handed bench bat to complement guys like Red Snyder, I think, and he's fast. You can use him as a pinch runner, and he's not going to kill you. He's got a pretty good arm. I wouldn't say as good as Vasquez or Ronaldo Hernandez, but definitely better than Plawecki. And good. Seems like he's a pretty good defensive catcher. We saw him a little bit in the majors this year, a little bit last year. Seems like he called a good game. So I can see him being one for sure. After that, like Brendan said, probably a pitcher. It might even be because we're getting, it's so weird right now with the team because we have 10 people on the IL right now.
Yeah,
so
10 pitchers.
A bunch of the starters are going to be moving to the pen, I would think. I would bet Cutter Crawford you're going to see there. Could even see someone like Michael Wacha moving back into the pen just because it's going to be so crowded, assuming
I was thinking Rich Hill in the bullpen too.
Yeah, Hill's a weird one for the pen just because the velocity isn't really his thing. I feel like he's almost you almost have to use him in a bulk role. But it's it's not like it's the worst situation to have that much pitching depth. Of guys that are purely in AAA right now, maybe Zach Kelly, just because he was on the show and I like him and he's done a good job. He's got a really good changeup. I thought it was going to be between him and Caleb Ort that got brought up, and both of them were perfectly worthy choices. Maybe Franklin German end of the year if he's if he makes a big step between now and September, he gets added to it because he's got good stuff. He's just still a little raw. What's your take on German, Brendan?
Like you said, raw stuff going from a starter to a reliever. Probably an adjustment there in routine and whatnot. Probably knocking off some of your elite, lesser effective pitches for your more effective pitches. I thought he was really impressive in Portland to start the year. Has ran into some troubles in Worcester, but obviously that's probably expected, right? For someone still learning on the go, I guess.
Yeah, and he when they first brought him into so he came over in the Adam Ottavino trade in that they bought him and Ottavino for Ottavino's contract, which between that and all of the like Rule 5 picks that Guy Bloom has taken off of the Yankees, you've gotta wonder if they've just like blocked his phone number by now. But sure, yeah, he started the year in Double-A, was lights out. Last year when he was in the system, they were actually using him as a starter, which I think is something that we're seeing a lot more with guys that are going to end up in the pen, like Wyatt Olds in High A. Really seems to have more of a relief pitcher's profile, but he's been starting all year. Mixed results. He has some really phenomenal games, some not so phenomenal games. But the stuff is there, and I think that the reason they do that is because it lets them practice more, it lets them figure out a third pitch. And that seems to have worked with German, because when they switched him to the pen last year in September, he was one of the best relievers in the system, and we're still kind of seeing that play now. He's at least on SoxProspects, he's the highest rated reliever if you're not counting Cutter Crawford as a reliever. And it's hard to rate high as a prospect when you're a relief pitcher, simply because if they were that good, they'd be starters. So, yeah, that's he's a pretty impressive guy they have there.
And then my next one, I don't have it on the list, so sorry guys, but
dude,
it's gonna be a spitball question. Do either of you guys think that we could see Ryan Fitzgerald this year with how much Arroyo's been struggling? And Fitzgerald actually has, like, I'm not trying to like downplay Arroyo, but Fitzgerald has real experience playing the outfield.
So I was at that game, and it was not. I thought that he was like faking it to try to throw off the runners or something, and then the ball landed like 20 feet behind him. I like Christian Arroyo, but
I love him too, but
he's not. It's not a natural position for him, and here's the thing with Fitzy. He's not on the 40-man roster, and he's a left-handed bat, and they have a lot of left-handed bats in the outfield, and he's been slumping lately. He hit a home run yesterday. It was a 3-run homer. I think it's 14th of the year. But he had a really good April and a really good May, and he's kind of just been in a slump through June. So I think that it could happen, especially with injuries, but I don't think it's as much of a lock as it was after April.
Yeah, I also have to wonder how seriously or how they consider vaccination status, because I'm pretty sure Fitzgerald told Alex Spear he wasn't vaccinated. So, I mean, obviously they only have a few games left in Toronto this season, I think one series, but if that's something that comes into play, he's at a disadvantage there compared to someone like Yolmer Sanchez.
Yeah. Now, do you think that cost him the call-up for that series? Do you think that, because Sanchez got brought up for that, do you think that were he vaccinated, they would have gone with Fitzgerald? Or do you think that Sanchez, is a past Gold Glove winner and has some major league experience?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, they wanted an extra infielder so they could get Trevor Story off his feet for one game during that series. So I think Yolmer was the safe choice.
Yeah, definitely an understandable one. I just know, like, people love Ryan Fitzgerald. He's like he has the most Boston name of a ball player. Like, I definitely went to a high school with at least one, if not more, Ryan Fitzgeralds. Like, that was actually their name. Like, people just really like the guy, and I hope for him. He's got a great story, like an independent league signing. But yeah, like you said, it's just not as likely that it's going to happen.
Today I saw that the Red Sox were projected to take Kumar Rocker, and I was just wondering how you guys would feel about that. Me personally, I would like it, especially if he's coming in as a reliever. And I wouldn't, because like Ed, we were talking earlier in the group chat, picks 20 through 30 are kind of a crapshoot. So I wouldn't mind going high on one, like you were saying.
Yeah, what do you got on that, Brendan?
Yeah, so obviously Kumar was the guy they were in on last year. I know before they took Meyer, there was obviously speculation that they could take one of the two Vanderbilt aces. They obviously went young, position player. I was of the belief this year that they were going to go in the same direction, just because if you look at what they've done under Chaim Bloom, they've taken Nick York and Marcelo Meyer with their first two first-round picks, both high school infielders. So, I mean, Kumar is obviously someone who could be on the verge of being major league ready. I think there's some question marks with him because if I read correctly, he had elbow surgery last year, and his pre-draft physicals were the reasons the Mets didn't want to sign him after drafting him. I really haven't been paying attention too closely to how he's been doing in the Frontier League. I know the numbers look good, but I know there's still some concerns about him.
So I've actually got a question for you just from that logic there, because you're right. They've trended towards drafting high school guys early. We saw it with Nick York. We saw it. I mean, Mayer, I don't think we can really count in there just because, I mean, come on, you were talking about him being the first pick in the country. Like that kind of talent drops to you. I don't care if you have Carlos Correa as your starting shortstop. You're taking that guy. But we saw that with Blaze Jordan also. We saw that Elmer Rodriguez Cruz was taken in the fourth round. But then we also have seen some guys in the third round. I mean, they didn't have the second round pick in the 2020 draft, but we saw Tyler McDonough was a college player go. In the third round, we saw the rest of the pitchers, Wu Yelland and Shane Drohan were college pitchers. So do you think that it's a case of they like high school guys earlier, or do you think it's that they're going after the best available talent, and that talent that they see just happens to be in high school? And if there's, if they saw someone that was in college that had a higher talent than the high school talent, they would go with that?
Well, I think most people will say that Nick York wasn't like the 24th best player in the 2020 draft class. But he got taken where he was taken because the Red Sox didn't think they would be able to get him in round number 3. So I think like with Meyer in that position, you're going for the best player available, like you said. But once you get lower and lower, or higher and higher, I guess you start thinking about other considerations. So, I mean, a lot of people want Rocker in like the bullpen after he signs, which I don't know. I feel like when you're drafting in baseball, you're drafting for the future. But like with a guy like Rocker, you'd be drafting for now.
Do you think they'd be able to slot Rocker into, like, do you think that he would start in AA, AAA, and maybe see, like we saw with David Price for Tampa back in 2008? Or do you think that they would take their time with him? Like,
I think it'd be like David Price, Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, my understanding was that he'd be like a AA guy immediately, at least.
Yeah, that's potentially interesting because then you think about it, because we saw that earlier today. There was that trade. What was it with Atlanta traded for a first-round pick, and they traded Drew Waters and some other prospects for a first-round pick. Would you trade your first-round pick for a relief pitcher? I think the question becomes there. Because we don't know. Obviously, the scouting report is good on him, but we don't really know what he's going to be if he's ready to take on major league hitters just yet. And that's something in and of itself. Would you trade a first-round pick for a major league reliever if we're trying to fill in a gap there? Like, say, maybe not David Bednar, but like, I don't know, like Daniel Bard, maybe. Well, no, because he's old though. So that
I don't know if I give up a pick for Bard.
Yeah, not Bard. I'm trying to think of like who's a young reliever that's potentially available that isn't like the number 1 guy, but like maybe the number 2.
I was gonna say Josh Hader, but he's obviously number 1.
Yeah, I can't see the Brewers trading Hader.
He's always on the trade block for some reason, though.
Yeah. People just, if you go by like what's on Twitter though, it's always like, like Rafael Devers is going to get traded for X, Y, and Z or Xander Bogaerts, and it doesn't happen. It happened with Mookie for different reasons, but teams that are in contention don't just trade their best guy to build depth elsewhere. I
think my favorite trade rumor out there right now is Andrew Benintendi for Joey Gallo, straight up. I just think it's hilarious.
Why would that's not even like
I don't understand it.
That's not even like Clint Frazier and Miguel Andujar for him, because why would you want Joey Gallo if you're the Royals?
I don't know, dude. I just think it's hilarious. But anyway, on to my next question. I want to get into a little bit of like the trade deadline because we're getting kind of close. So what's a few names that you guys could see getting traded from the prospect list?
Paulino, for one. Well, I think it depends on what teams are looking for. Like, are they looking for a lottery ticket kind of guy? Are they looking for someone who's on the verge of being major league ready? Because obviously the Red Sox could float someone like, well, they have guys like Duran, for instance, who's kind of in the mix between a prospect and the major league right now. Like, I know he graduated from his prospect status technically, but trying to think.
I think I don't know if Polito, because I feel like his value, I feel like his potential versus how other systems are going to see him aren't quite. I don't know if they're going to be able to get maximum value for him off that. I think someone. I mean, they could though, because it is Salem. And they have a lot of guys that kind of fit into that mold, though. So that's interesting. I think Matthew Lugo has a shot at getting traded. The shortstop at High A, maybe more famous for being Carlos Beltran's nephew, but he's currently like the handcuff player with Marcelo Mayer. So if they want to bring him up to Greenville and they don't want to bring Christian Koss up to AAA from AA, that might make sense to kind of cut the middleman there. And then you can move Brainerd, Bonacci, or or Polito to shortstop. But Polito's an interesting one because that just seems. Maybe I'm just seeing him. Maybe I just rate him higher than he should be. But I kind of agree with your comparison to Rafaela, though. I think he is that type of prospect.
I was just thinking, like, last year they traded Aldo Ramirez for a half season of Schwarber. Great trade, obviously, because I mean Ramirez was kind of that same situation as a guy bursting onto the scene a little bit in Salem before he got hurt.
Yeah, it was. It's funny with Ramirez because I remember SoxProspects had him in like the top 10, and but then if you looked at the like the MLB.com, like the MLB pipeline one, he was like in the 20s for them, which was a little. You don't usually see that much of a discrepancy between like SoxProspects and the rest of the mainstream, which is it's just interesting when that happens.
And then continuing with this trade talk, we have a fan question actually. It's from Nick W5241 asking, what do you think is a realistic trade package for a high leverage reliever rental like Daniel Bard or David Robertson? And do you think the trade would be worth it?
Well, going off last year's trade deadline, they gave up Alex Scher for a half season of Hansel Robles, who was put into a high leverage spot, even though some might not think he's a high leverage reliever.
The finger pointer.
Yeah. So I would imagine it would take some mid-level guy like that, maybe someone with more potential who's younger, but like someone who's has a significant role in either like Greenville or Portland.
Yeah, I'm first of all, I mean Robles, they don't make the playoffs without Robles last year. Just like his September, which I agree would not have been my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth pick to be the guy they trade for that role, but you know, he had one hell of a September. So I support that trade. Obviously worked out. It's going to cost more than an Alex Schreff or whatever the last name was there with him to get, a Daniel Bard or a David Robertson, especially because every team needs bullpen. So they're going to be offering their guys as well. You have to top what the other team wants. You don't want to get into a bidding war where you end up spending a top 20 guy on somebody who's going to be with you for 2 months. Relievers are obviously important, but for 2 months of a guy that they've proven they can get somebody that works out of Hansel Robles quality arm, maybe probably not worth it. But specifically for those two, Bard, I think, because he is on the older side, but he's also, a proven setup arm, he could have been an all-star this year if CJ Crone wasn't going absolutely ballistic with the bat in Colorado. He's probably gonna be a top 20 guy, I think, just because they're gonna have other organizations that can sweeten the pot more, maybe 2 top 30 guys. Robertson, the Cubs are hard to trade with because they've got a pretty good eye for prospects, I think.
Pete Crow Armstrong.
Oh God, I would love to get Pete Crow Armstrong on the Red Sox. That was a swindle of a deal right there.
Fleece.
Yeah,
absolute fleece.
So I'm a little like, and Robertson, I mean, he was out of baseball. Remember that? He was pitching for the U.S. Olympic team last year going into the season. And then he caught on with Tampa, and he wasn't that great there. He was fine, but he was a typical Tampa reclamation pitcher. And then he shows up in Chicago, and he's their closer, and, he's going to get them some good prospects. I don't. So there's a reason that guys like David Bednar cost so much more than somebody like Daniel Bard and David Robertson, just even though their stats look somewhat similar, just because a guy in their 20s who has a future is just so much more.
Especially when Bednar has 4 years of control left.
Yeah, it makes it so that it turns down the risk a bit more. But you're going to be making a risk with any trade, so. Yeah, do we have?
What was that?
Oh no, what were you going to say?
Oh, I just wanted to get off about the trade talk for a little bit. Because you had mentioned about talking about Marcelo Mayer again, so I just wanted your guys' opinion on how he's been handling professional pitching for the first time in his life. Like, how do you guys think he's doing while handling it?
The injuries are tough, but I mean, he's been one of the top hitters in the Carolina League when healthy, which from what I understand is a tough thing to do in Salem because of, I'm not sure what park factors are there, if it's the altitude or something, but it's a hard park to hit in from what I understand.
Yeah, it's he's put on a good showing. The injuries are tough. He had a wrist injury. He hasn't played in a couple games. I don't know if it's the wrist flaring up again or a hamstring thing or a back thing. It's been a rough go of things for the top Red Sox offensive players between him, Casas, and York, but he's probably going to get moved up to Greenville if he's healthy before the end of the year. I can't imagine he doesn't at least get like a cup of coffee there towards the end of the season. Just then he'll start next year there. He's so far delivered. The power's happening pretty quick. Most guys when they're 19 aren't hitting home runs, but he's got I think 7 or 8 right now. He's got
big doubles guy.
Yeah, tons of doubles. What's wild to me about that though? Blaze Jordan actually has more doubles than Marcelo Meyer does, and Edinson Polito is right there, and they're like all in the 20s and they're all 19 years old. So there's some. This is a fun Red Sox minor league system right now. I know you're really into Meyer though, Tim. Like, what's your take on him, Ben?
I'm honestly a little bit surprised with how quick he adjusted. I didn't expect him to be hitting this well. And I didn't expect him to show this much power with like all the doubles and extra base hits. And he does have some speed too, which I was pleasantly surprised with. And his fielding doesn't look awful either.
Yeah, I mean, speed's weird in the low minors because the catchers, the arms in the minor leagues are not
they're not the best.
They're not great. Like, the lower you get, like, the more often you'll see these absurd. Like, I just remember earlier in the year in like Dominican Summer League, someone stole 6 bases in one game, and it's just like, is there actually a catcher there? Like, I feel like at some point, like you're just gonna overslide the base or something. But he's really hit, and it's just nice to see that he's I always worry with these guys that are hyped up that they're going to struggle, and he did struggle in June. He had an 0-for-16 spell, and he figured out how to get back out of it, and he was our player of the week on SoxProspects for a bit, and now might be hurt again. But yeah, it's been really good seeing what he's been able to do this quickly, and it's going to be very exciting if he ends. And you can disagree with me on this one. I think he's going to end next year. I think they're going to give him a taste of AA if he's hitting at high A, which for a 20-year-old is fast. Cedar Rafaela moved there really quickly.
So you think next year he ends in AA?
Yeah, I think he realistically could end next year in AA with like a taste of it there. I think
that's fair.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be this year. I think that would be ludicrous to bring anybody up that quickly unless they're doing like Nico Cavana's stuff, and Nico's 23. So, which I don't think. Yeah, no, Nico's that's a college player. That counts as like going through the lower levels already.
And then the last topic I have for us before we end this is Brian Bayo. I just want to talk about the emergence of him, and I mean he had a rocky first career start, but I was kind of expecting that. but I think he's going to click tonight, and I just want to know what you guys think. Maybe a stat line prediction for tonight, if you're feeling generous.
Okay, I'll go first on that then, so that we can do like a Price is Right thing here with it going over and under. I'm gonna say he does 5.1 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. I think he's gonna have a good game. I think he's not gonna be perfect, but he's gonna show some of that talent that he very clearly has.
I'll go 5 1/3, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts.
So we're pretty similar on this. The over-under here is 2.5 because I think it's going to be 2 and you think it's going to be 3. So I feel like we should have a bet on this here. If it's under 3, man, it's tough to do. If it's under. Yeah, I can't think of anything to bet here, but I'll have to think about that the next time we have someone on here for how I can feed my gambling addiction. Do you have anything? Any other topics you want to go over, Brendan? While we're here, we got a couple minutes.
What do you guys think about Brandon Walter's injury?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say, fuck. Why did that have to happen right now? Because that's a guy that you could plug right. You know, he's 25 or 26, I think. So he's not somebody that it's like you have to hold him down there. And his arm's kind of what it's going to be. I think his sliders. When we talked to Colt Cottom, he was saying that his slider is the single best pitch he's ever seen, and that's a guy that's caught Nathan Eovaldi in spring training before. So. That would have been a really nice depth piece. I think they would have brought him up before they brought up Bayo. So that sucks for him. That sucks for the Red Sox. I think he's going to be a good pitcher. I hope that it's like a neck injury, right? It's not.
Yeah, it's a neck strain.
Yeah. So that's my take on that. How about you, Tim?
I kind of agree with you. Like, obviously, there's never a good time for injury, but it happened at probably about the worst time because I do feel like he would have been up before Bayo. And now he can't even pitch in AAA for a little bit, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. The AAA rotation's been a little devastated. I mean, Chris Murphy just came up, and I think he's got to be their best arm there right now. I think he's better than Keller. Trying to think who else is even there in the starting rotation. It's not because Thomas Pannone went over to Korea, which, you know, good for him. He wasn't going to get an opportunity here. But yeah, that's kind of a decimated. Do you think that we're going to see Victor Santos get brought up to AAA soon?
He's pretty young still, so I don't know.
I mean, he's 21, but he was pitching in AA last year when he was the guy they traded CJ Chatham for.
Right, player to be named later.
Yeah, there are some fun ones. I love the players to be named later. Okay, I've got one more for you. Who is your favorite guy that they got in return for Andrew Benintendi? Of the five guys they brought back.
Well, first I'll say I thought Freddie Valdez was going to be more than like a part-time player in the FCL, so I guess I'm disappointed by that.
Yeah, that's them lottery tickets. Sometimes they're duds.
Even De La Rosa, like I know some people thought he was going to start the year in Salem, but he just got there now. So I think Wink is the easy answer. Most potential, highest ceiling.
Yeah, I like Wink. I think he's a potential number 4 starter. You know, like the kind of guy who's got a 3.80 to 4.70 ERA, and he'll eat you like a good 180 innings, a lot of ground balls. Yeah, I think Franchi might have the higher ceiling of the two, though. I just watch him like. I
was gonna say, is it bad that I still want to say Franchi with everything else we got in that trade?
I watch. There are some games where you watch Franchi and the way that he hits the ball and how fast he moves and how good his arm is, and you're just like, Jesus Christ! Like
this shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, like this guy looks like he should be an all-star. Why isn't he an all-star? But he's been fun to watch this year, and I think Wink is a very valid answer there. So, yeah, that's our show for today. Brendan Campbell. Thanks so much for joining us today. This was awesome having you here. You can follow him on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
At Brendan_Camp.
And he's a writer on SoxProspects, on OverTheMonster, and on his very own blog, Blogging the Red Sox, which, where can you find that?
BloggingTheRedSox.com.
Yeah, and, I can tell you I've been following Brendan on Twitter for a couple of years now. If you're not following him, it's a really good account. I get very frustrated sometimes because what I'm supposed to be doing is tweeting updates on the minors, and he beats me to them a lot of the time. And then I'm like, well, I can't do that now. But I guess I'll retweet him. So good account to follow. And it's been a blast having you here, man. Thank you. Thanks so much. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pesky Report. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.